Hello, everyone, and welcome to a fresh episode of PhD the Philosophical Drama. I'm your host Shweta, and today I'm super excited to host this episode as we are not just going to have one guest, but we are going to have two guests today joining us from different parts of the world. We are going to have a PhD student and her PhD mentor joining us and describing and telling about their different stories and experiences throughout their journey. But before I call them in, I would like to describe this short anecdote that I came across on the internet. This is something which was written by a physicist, Philip Moriarty. He is now a professor of physics at the University of Nottingham. And in this write-up, he describes about his equation with his PhD mentor. His name is Greg Hughes, and he talks about different aspects of his equation with his PhD mentor, which was like really great. Their equation was really amazing, and they shared this very deep passion for the kind of science that they did and the kind of experiment that they did. And he describes this particular instance, which is something which happened towards the later years of his PhD. And he talks about this very long experiment that they were doing. And because it was a long experiment, they were doing it in shifts. That is, Philip, that's the student, he was completing this 40-hour long overnight shift, and in the morning his PhD mentor was supposed to come in and help him out, substitute him for the ongoing experiment. And this is what he describes. After a rather arduous 40-hour shift, I was about to leave for breakfast when Greg arrived. Greg is Greg Hughes, his advisor. I barked out a list of instructions, including telling him to leave certain key parameters on the experimental kit alone. He would have been quite within his rights to take umbrage at the lippiness of a young and rather unkempt scientist with a fraction of his research experience. But instead, he nodded sagely and smiled. He later told me that it was at that point, when I was telling him what he should do rather than the other way round, that he realized that I deserved the award of a doctorate. Ever since, I have used the willingness of students to robustly argue their case and or tell me why I am wrong as a benchmark for their PhD readiness. So at this interesting note, I would like to invite Dr. Dayna L. Averitt, who is an associate professor at the Texas Women's University, and her former student, Dr. Sukhbir Kaur, to today's episode. And let's listen to their interesting anecdotes.
Hey, um, hi Dana. You're going to have to send a request to me to join in. I don't think I can invite you to join on this call. Hi Sukhbir.
Hello.
There's some technical issue because of which I'm not able to add Dana. Uh, I can't see her request actually. And okay, I can invite her now.
Yay!
Hi.
How are y'all doing?
Good.
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I was trying to do it from my computer, but it doesn't have the same option.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. But great that like I was a bit scared when I couldn't see that I could not add you. But yeah, great that we are all here now. And thank you so much for doing this. Welcome on this episode. Um, I hope we have like a great time, and I'm really excited to listen to your stories. So yeah, let me start with the first question, and the first question is for Sukhbir. So Sukhbir, tell me how was your journey? How did you actually start in this lab, in Dayna's lab?
So, when I was in India completing my master's, I knew that I really want to do neuroscience. That's all I knew at that point, right? That I want to do my PhD, has to be something in neuroscience. And with that naive knowledge of being in the field, I emailed her because I was looking at universities, and I somehow came across the page of Texas Women's University. And at the point, there were three new professors, including Dr. Averitt and two other professors who were actually on my committee later on. They all were starting at that point. So I was like, they'll definitely have a spot for a student. And two of them were neuroscience, so Dr. Averitt and Dr. Brower, the other professor. So I reached out to both of them saying that, hey, I really like your research. And I did not have any clue about how to go about this, how to do this, but I still emailed them. And then she was like, good to meet you. I do have a spot, but like you have to go through the normal admission process. And if you get accepted,
Yeah.
then we can talk. So then I applied to TWU and I got accepted. And after that, I just, when I reached there, I arranged meetings with her, with Dr. Brower, so two of the neuroscience labs I was interested in. And it was just the topic of research that she was doing was really close to what I've seen in my normal life, pain neuroscience, right? Like everyone experiences pain at some point. So we spoke, and I think it was like a 1 hour meeting we had. And at the end of the meeting, she's like, so will you join the lab? And I was like, yes. And she's like, yay, you're my first graduate student.
Yeah, right. That's a very interesting story. So, which means that you did not like really have many options to choose from mentors, and I would say that you were very lucky to land up in a lab which had a really superb PhD advisor. But I'm sure you have had experiences with like good and not so good mentors. So now after, looking at it in retrospect, what do you think about having a good mentor? How important is that?
In my opinion, it's more important than the project you're doing. See, you could love what you're doing, but having a good mentor who is able to maintain healthy relationships in the lab, maintain a healthy lab environment, and also give you or have that knowledge of mentoring you according to your needs. Like she knows her students, right? Dr. Averitt knows how to deal with each student. Like someone needs more independence when they're working. Someone needs to be constantly
Yeah.
checked in with, like, hey, where are you doing? Like, where is your project at?
Right.
So I think that she understands that very well. Instead of applying that one style on all philosophy, she doesn't go that way. So I've experienced that that's really important, especially for a person like me. I need a good environment to work in, and I like you will excel if the environment is good. So as you said, I've experienced both now. And after those experiences, I would say a mentor can change, make or break your life, and definitely inspire you, encourage you to go in the right direction. And this is not just being there, like even after coming out of the lab, now that like I'm outside in the field, like looking for jobs and everything, I've realized how much of her mentorship has influenced me and how I talk or how I present. And then when people are like, oh, that was a really good presentation, I'm always like, this was all This was all her mentorship throughout the 5-6 years of PhD, and it's not something that ends when your PhD ends. You carry that
Exactly.
forward. That's the type of
Yes.
mentorship you should have.
Yes, yes. Thanks from for like bringing up so many points in that answer, and we'll come back to all of those. But now I would like to ask Dayna, how was your experience as a mentor? Like Sukhbir said, you were just starting off your lab, and uh, from how I see it, for most of our life, we are mentees. And of course, we mentor students, but starting a new lab suddenly has a lot of responsibilities. So, how was your journey from a mentee to a mentor?
It's challenging. Or as you have in like various aspects, get examples. And I think if you pick and choose things that you like and don't like, different mentors you have, you kind of develop your own style. So the more experience you have with them, or bad, and how they, I've had two mentors, my postdoctoral mentor and my graduate school mentor. There's pros and cons to any with at any level, and so I think picking and choosing what you like a mentorship, you build your own mentor. I think Sukhbir had a good point. It's hard to, you have to you're mentoring and try to figure out what's best for them, and it's your job to try to mentor based on feedback you're getting from them. So some students will act very different of mentorship. So it is really challenging, very kind of figure that out. And I think it's equally important to kind of adjust and change. And so you're always kind of like feeling out how reacting to mentorship style and changing it.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't really working. I think if you choose a mentor where you can recognize that they are paying attention to you and how you function and how you perform on their feedback, and can gauge that they will be, then that's important. If when that you're talking to a potential mentor that very rigid, seems to treat every student exactly the same, then it's more about the mentor, right? Not about the student. And that's probably a
Right.
pay attention to. Yeah, it's challenging. I think it's also kind of recognize we're people as well, and we want to do it and under circumstances it's but there should be a lot of process for sure. And I think that's I've been comfortable to in these early years, 8 years at TWU now, so I've had a lot of time to make changes. I'm comfortable with that, so it's worked with.
All right. There's a small technical issue. I don't know if Sukhbir is also noticing. Dayna, your voice is breaking. Can you try using a earphone or a headphone?
Let me try
Sure.
if that works. Is it any better?
Can you try talking now? Maybe.
Is that any better?
Yes, this is much better. Yes.
Okay. I had my phone set at the table, but maybe the audio was being blocked. We'll try that hopefully.
Oh, okay. 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 So you were talking about the mentorship styles, and you were saying that it's more about how what the student needs, and you should look at what kind of student you have, and different students need different things. Their range of independence basically is varied. How was it with Sukhbir? I know that, I know Sukhbir personally, so I know that she's one of the very diligent workers. She's someone who is like, when she knows that she wants to do this kind of experiment or read this paper also, she'll be like with her markers, and she'll she'll ensure that she knows the paper from the first page till the last page. I know this about Sukhbir. But how's your experience with her, especially because she was your first student, and more than that, she was an international student.
Yes. So first of all, it's a dream for a mentor to have a student that will take leadership and ownership of something and get to know it better than before. And that's the goal. What you were talking about before, where the anecdote was, you want to see your students become more proficient at what you're training them than you are, and then you know you did a good job. That's also on the mentee too, to work hard enough to be able to get to that point within 3 or 4 years. And so with Sukhbir, that was always very easy. She was very driven, and that made the job very easy. I do remember, this is a story we talk about all the time.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. There is a comment from the audience that there is still an echo. Do you mind putting in headphones or earphones? I think there is some kind of feedback, and I think it will be sorted out if you
Let me step away
use
from my
headphones.
computer because I had it on my computer. Is that any better?
The problem with the computer is I think we won't be able to talk in on an Instagram chat live room that we have created. I think that will be an issue.
Is it any better now?
Yeah, it seems better.
It's better now. Yeah.
I had it pulled up on my computer, so it might have been running in the background still, so it's picking my audio up twice.
Maybe. Let's hope that I don't have to interrupt you again and again, and it gets. I mean,
hope it's stormy here, so I hope it's not internet.
It's still patchy, but there's no feedback. Sounds better. Okay. Yeah. So you were saying with Sukhbir. You were talking about your experience with Sukhbir.
So I know there's a story we always joke about with when she came in the first year in the lab. She was doing an experiment where we were doing cell cultures, and so you have to dissociate cells in a hood, and she was working on that. It was her first time doing it alone after I had taught her, and very much, here's how to do it, go do it, and let's see how you do. Because in my perspective, mistakes are part of science. Like, you got to make mistakes in order to get past them, and so you know how to do what you're doing. And so the first time she was doing a cell culture by herself, she spilled the cells, and the cells went down a drain. And at some point, she came and told me in my office, and I'll never forget how nervous she was about it. She thought that I was going to completely get upset and yell at her. When I first started too.
I think it's her internet.
And so it's definitely an example of how you switch from one mentorship to another, where I think it's important for a mentor to, treat a student more like, you're developing a colleague in that student. So eventually they're going to be a PhD in your field as well. And so it's very important to treat them as such, and not just, treat them as a employee and degrade them if they do something wrong. So that was a defining moment, I think, for her and my kind of mentorship together. I learned a lot from what she expected and what she needed. And I think she learned a lot from what I expected. And I think we had a very collegial relationship after we realized that.
That's great. That's awesome to know. There's also this concept of, I remember writing an email in my first year when I was starting as a graduate student. And in that email, I had written that I'm so-and-so, and I'm working for my mentor's name. But when I sent that draft to my PhD mentor, he changed it to working with him. So this difference between working for your mentor and working with your mentor, it makes a lot of difference. What are your Subir, what are your thoughts on it? And Dayna, what do you feel about that?
So I definitely feel that I did not feel that I was working for her. It was always working with her. Like whenever I used to send out emails, I know it was just like intuitively. Yeah, I'm in Dr. Averitt's lab, and I would like to I'm working with her on this project. So we would like to collaborate with you or something. Whenever I had to reach out to someone or do something, and I think that's the part of what she brings in as a mentor. Like it's a team, right? So even if it's undergraduate students, if it's graduate students, everyone is a team. Everyone is part of the project or part of project or projects that we're trying to move forward. So it's never like this is what you want to work with. She always had an open option for everyone. Like pick and choose what you like, especially for undergrads because they're coming in for a short period of time, right? So it was always like working as a team and getting to just, uh, getting the project move further. That's all that was required
Right.
to be as a team. So I definitely feel that working with and working as a team together is what something I've experienced in the lab and definitely something I would want to have moving forward as well.
What do you think about it, Dana? How was your experience when you were a PhD student? And does that reflect in any way now that you are running a lab of your own?
Right. I had wonderful, very lucky to have good mentorship as a grad postdoctoral fellow. They were very different mentors, and I definitely think I brought those styles together. And in both cases, it was very important for those mentors to always treat me like a colleague because, like I said before, you're the person you're sitting across the table with, working with to submit a paper is going to be the same person that you're seeing at conferences that have, equal or further expertise than you at that point. So I never view graduate students as anything below or employee like some more negative, mentorship styles can be like. It's important to always treat them and give them that confidence that you're almost there. You're here in grad school. You're performing things that you will be doing your whole life. I'm just here to help you along the way still. And that creates a lot different type of PhD than a style that is more directive and here you do this and this week and report back to me at the end of the week. So you need to be able to give your students that flexibility for creativity and growth and to feel like they are part of the team and are working towards being in your position in one facility or another so that they are confident when they do go to conferences and are among all these other faculty that they're right there with them and they're just in the training portion.
Right.
They still have somebody helping along. My postdoc advisor would always joke, like, we're all collaborating together. I'm just here trying to get you the money to do what you want to do and to get you where you need to go.
That's great. That's great. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting again. There's another comment. I think it would sound better if you turn off your headphones. I think they are connected to the computer. We are still getting a kind of feedback
I don't
and
have any headphones.
Yeah,
I'm just walking around. I don't have any headphones or anything. I don't know what the
I don't know.
is.
Okay, let's continue. Let's
I
hope
think
that
it's internet connection. I can try to leave and come back in.
okay, we can try that.
It might just be the echo and
Yeah, let's hope that
okay. Y'all chat about something and
if you leave and come
I'll back in and see.
Yeah, we'll be here for you.
Okay, let me try that.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the internet.
Yeah, let's hope that when she comes back, it will be fine.
Yeah.
It's the killer internet, someone says. Okay, I have. Okay, hi, welcome back.
Hello.
Hi. Okay, let's just continue. I know there have been a lot of interruptions, and I'm extremely sorry for this. Uh, but okay, let's go back to what we were talking about. And you were saying that you had different kind of mentors, and you had different kind of experiences with them. So what has your goal been like with every student who joins your lab? Do you like have common aims that you sit together and discuss, or it varies again with different students?
I think it's pretty variable between students. I know when Sukhbir joined, my lab was pretty open. There was just no research was just starting, and so I think we sat down in the lab one day and talked for maybe 2 or 3 hours about just what we're interested in, non-science things, in general, kind of getting to each other. And I think that kind of built a strong basis for having an idea what kind of student she would be and what her personality was. And then I had projects that I was funded by NIH, and she was interested in doing it. And where I work with animals as well, and so I gave her the options of there's these various types of studies you could do in the lab. And so she started off doing cell cultures and IHC and westerns and things that she was very comfortable with, until she grew more into opening that and trying other types of experiments. So I think it's nice for students to start off with things they're comfortable with in the lab, and then kind of build from there as they develop through the year into more experiential. We have no idea if this will work or not, and it may take a while to get going.
Right.
At least they've kind of started on a path, toward a project. And I echo what Sukhbir said too. I don't think the project is really that important. You don't need to have coming into the lab. You don't really need to say, these are all the techniques that I do to join the lab. It's really more about what your intellectual ability is potentially going to be to get along with your mentor, that you successful collaboration done.
Right. Okay. Sukhbir, how was your experience as an international student? You are new to the US and when you started off, and how was your journey with respect to a different cultural place and a different kind of work environment to work in? Tell me
Okay,
about that.
my first reaction, to be honest, after moving was I was shocked at how different the culture is over here. And just like being away from home, I didn't know a lot of things. It's like not just about how to how to be a PhD student. No one teaches you anything about it. You just go into a lab and you start doing projects, and suddenly you're like in charge for this whole dissertation that you're going to write, right? And apart from that, I just didn't know basic things: how to operate blinds, how to just use this complex washing machine that I have in my new apartment, and how to use those coil-based gas stoves. It was all a new experience. And in the first 6 months, and I'll be really honest, I was ready to go back. I was like, this is not something I'm comfortable with. But I think it was just the first 6 months of being in a very new place, in a new country, away from family, and you know that you're not close. Like in India, you're at a walking distance from someone you can go to, right? When you're outside, everything you have to drive everywhere. I didn't drive a car at that point, so just assimilating in the culture over there was a huge thing. And as she mentioned in the first story, that when I spilled the cells, down the drain, entire sample. I was like, this is it. This is my last day in the lab. And she's just going to say bye and I have to take a flight back to India. But she was like, yeah, okay. So I'm like, the sample is gone. And she's like, yeah, that's fine. Do it again next time when you have a chance. I was like, that's it? Like, you're not going to scold me. And I had that from just like some mentors I had in India were like that. So I had that notion of being yelled at and just when I do something wrong. So I think understanding that that's not the case, and she's just being a good mentor, helping me grow. And sometimes even her confidence in me scared me. Like I was like, you sure I can do that? Like you're sending me to all these conferences and presentations. Are you really sure about it? So I think just developing that overall confidence to where I was just able to independently work on a project and be independent enough to say that, yes, this is what I can do, this is what I cannot do. So that was the whole journey when I look back at it. So the first 6 months were definitely just understanding how to work and how to work with a mentor, and then understanding the culture and just trying to settle in. But I would say this. So I really had I was scared of being as a turbaned Sikh as an international student in the United States, right? Because I had heard stories in the news, because news is everything. Like, this is what happened, mostly negative. So the first day that I walked in to teach a class, I was like, I don't know how the students will, how they will react to my presence in the class, because it's like, this is an international person, and my accent was like, we have the accent coming in, right? So, but I would say being at TW was such a positive experience. Like the first 2-3 hours meeting that she was mentioning we had, it was just about understanding what this means to me. Why do I tie a turban? Just like personal choices and knowing the person, which was really important to me. And every professor in TW, or for that matter, like just the area around, was a really positive experience. There was no experience that I've had was like, oh my God, why am I in this place? I've had people in the mall, like one lady walked up to me and I was like, I don't know her, why is she walking up to me? She's like, what's that on your head? And I'm like, that's a turban. She's like, it's a beautiful color. And I'm like, thank you. So
That's very sweet.
yeah, so I really had good experiences as an international student. The whole community is very diverse at TW. So there are so many people from different parts of the world that it's, you don't feel that you're not in a comfortable place.
That's amazing. I'm really glad that you had that kind of an experience. So you just said that you also you entered a classroom and you were teaching, which means you also had like mentorship experience of your own. So how has your experience been, and has it evolved like with time?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the classes were basically labs, so there wasn't like a lot of mentoring a student per se, but just the presentation style and talking about like explaining things to them. I never shied away from like putting the PowerPoint aside and just writing on the blackboard old school style to explain a concept, because I majorly taught in the initial semester science for non-science majors. So I didn't want them to like hate science after my lab and just go and like, what lab am I stuck in, right? So I really took her parts of the mentor, and I still say that if I have a lab in the future, I want to pick the qualities that she has as a mentor, and then take them in my lab. So I definitely progressed. Like I remember when I had my first undergraduate student who was going to work with me, I kind of picked up on her style and not like just, okay, you have to do this, come in. I used to tell them what all experiments I do. This is what I do. These are the techniques I use. What interests you? You can start with that. Like help, like just do the project like tiny bits and pieces of what you like. And then once you know this is what you like, then we can work together. And then we just used to make a work plan according to that.
Okay.
So that definitely developed in the final years when I really had like honors and the capstone thesis student projects who used to do a considerable amount of work in the project. So definitely learned and picked up all that from her. It was never, you are responsible for this is what you're doing and go forward. No, it was always like, let's work together. I can do this part and you can do this. Okay, I cannot come in at this time. Can you come in? Just kind of working with them instead of just giving them something.
Right. That's amazing. What do you think, Dayna? Like, has your in the past 8.5 years is what you said. Has your mentorship experience is it evolved? Like, does it evolve with time?
Absolutely. I think I had mentioned before, you definitely will kind of change depending on the kind of feedback you're getting from students. If you're interested in doing a good job. So I think through there, I definitely learned to be patient with international students, not would have really known going in, know all the experiences of international students. I've traveled international conferences, and I do remember being in a class and wondering why the team was in the kitchen and not having any idea how to work. And that was in Scotland. And so I can imagine what that was months at a time. So I think it's really important as a mentor developing skills to be patient and flexible, because if I would have gotten frustrated, kick Sukhbir out of the lab, like she said, that would happen when she made a little mistake, or when I could tell she was getting homesick. Like I do remember a period sick, and we talked about it. And so I think being open to talk about non-science things is important to the science. And being patient, because if you work with someone for 5 years or 7 years, you're going to go through some life fluctuations with them that can definitely affect, their mental health abilities in the lab. And so it is so important to have patience in the early part of that process. If you're impatient, well, this isn't going to work. You just not going to get anywhere. Kind of developed research or mentorship that puts anything good out into the world in terms of other scientists joining your field. So it's very important to be patient. Also important is if you're looking for mentors, universities that have a lot of, if you're an international student, have a lot of international students. You can have other colleagues as you go through grad school to see how they got through this and to lean on each other, and to know that there's that, find that important bringing international students important, and the patience that comes with that.
Exactly. Yeah. One point that comes out of this is like, when you are in a professional setup, even when you are in a professional setup, there are personal things which are happening both in the mentors as well as the mentees' life, and there is always a spillover of that in your professional life. Especially, like, for example, from my graduation days, I know that my PI used to be like almost like a guardian to me, has helped me if I was not well. There have been times when he has been like a family to me when I was admitted to the hospital, and this was locally, like when I was still in India. So I'm sure, Sukhbir, you must have had such kind of experiences with her. What do you have any stories like these?
Oh yeah, definitely. So I remember her being like, the first year I was there, she hosted a Christmas party at her place, and just like it was for everyone, we just joined in together as a lab, and it was a potluck style, so we all made something and just joined in together and enjoyed. And then somehow that just became like a tradition in the lab. So we had that one party, and then it was every year. And whenever someone, let's say a student graduated or something, we used to do something as as a lab outside of the lab. So we have done paintings together, we have played golf together, we have done so many different, like even when we are at conferences, we go and experience just being touristy around the new town that we are in, right? So like she's a person who also enjoys doing those things. So it's really easy to be yourself around her and just be like, yeah, like I have had times when I was like, I'm going to skip this talk and go to this place. And she's like, yeah, go. So just like having those experiences together as a lab and doing fun things outside. We have done so many dinners and like have lunch outside. And I think one very particular thing about her is whenever we used to meet for like a paper that we are discussing, though we know it's going to be a long meeting, like an hour or two long, where we are just going to sit and brainstorm. She used to be like, let's go out to a lunch meeting. So we used to go out, have our lunch, also while discussing the paper with our laptops and just being in a cafe or being in a small place. So this was very specific to Dr. Averitt. And I haven't seen or heard anyone else doing that. So I really enjoyed all those like tiny experiences of being away from home and just her being willing to share like or being open to us having her in her home, like meeting her family, meeting her daughters, and they love all the students around. Like when I was coming to Canada, I remember both her daughters being like, hey, Sukhbir, will you come to the Christmas party this year? I was like, sure.
That's so sweet.
So we played with her daughters. Like when we used to go out to golfing, they had these little tips and tricks, like they're just playing with their like the games with their hands and be like, let's do this, let's play this. So just like having a very nice and family-like atmosphere. So that's something that she like. I know she is very good about that, and we never felt away, or we just had so much to enjoy while being there in the lab as well.
That's amazing. That's so nice to hear. So, which brings me to, there is this thing which is important to keep harmony between the lab mates and, like how you said in the beginning, Sukhbir, you need a good positive work environment. And I think it is not just the advisors, but also every student's responsibility. What's your opinion about that? What do you think about this?
I definitely agree. It was I mean she's in her office, right? It's us who are working in the lab, in the space together. So just being comfortable with everyone and just understanding how. So like over those 6 years, we had 2 new graduate students come in while I was there. So just understanding the workspace and knowing that, okay, this is how everyone works around something. Like I have my own style of work. They both have their own style of work. So just being comfortable with that, right? That's not my work area. I'm not going to like go and say them like, why have you kept this thing in this way? No, it's their area. They are working. They might have some experiment that they're doing and they're just out for lunch or something. Just being there. And we also used to tell each other, like, hey, can you watch my Western blot while I go grab lunch? Like, hey, can you do this? Like, my IHC, I'm just keeping it for washes. Just can you change the buffer and something? So it was a very, very friendly relationship from the beginning. And I think it's because the way she has built the atmosphere in the lab, right? Like, no one kind of talks behind the back about anyone, which is really important. And I'll tell you why, because I've experienced that environment where it's very judgmental. And I knew that if I ask this question, they are going to go behind my back and discuss that, oh, what a stupid question that was, or something. So whenever we didn't have that kind of atmosphere in the lab, it was mainly because of her. And then we kind of picked it off of her, like when we had new students in the lab. So we never had those issues. We just worked together and kept to our workspaces and kind of let other people do their thing. And that was what worked for us.
Great. Shifting gears, how was your writing experience? Thesis writing, manuscript writing. How did you both coordinate and discuss, like you write the results, I will write the discussion, or you write the whole manuscript and I will edit it. How was it? How did you guys go about?
Dr. Averitt, you want to go first?
Sure. I think another one of my favorite memories is just, I tell my students, when you're writing together, when you're getting ready to submit it, usually come to my office and we have 3 or 4 hours just hashing out the last bits of it, uploading documents, writing the letter to the editor, whatever things we're forgetting. And so I remember one time we were doing that. Sukhbir would have different meals at all hours. We would eat lunch like in the evening. So I was always like, have you eaten? Are you good? Or one time we were going on and on. And so I was like, I always kept like peanut butter bread in my office in case I got like that. And so I stopped and made her sandwiches. And then I realized she'd never had peanut butter sandwich before.
Oh,
Really cool. I was like, I'm making a peanut butter sandwich. It was really funny. But
did you like it?
Yeah, she actually took a picture of me holding the peanut butter sandwich because that was the first time I was eating a peanut butter sandwich with honey, and I never had that combination before. So, and she always had peanut butter in her office. So, like there were times when she's like, "Let's have a peanut butter sandwich," and then we both used to share a sandwich while working on the paper that we were working on.
yeah, so I think it's
Yeah.
create that environment where your students feel comfortable and feel like themselves. You don't want to just put your personality on them to do what I would do, but rather while you're writing, I may go through lots of drafts, but I'm trying not to change it to how I want. It's hard because I have it in my head what I want. So I think a part of mentorship is letting your grad students develop their writing style. So over the years, you get better as a writer. They're also developing writing style under mentorship. So last couple of papers here, we went through a hand instead of the first paper, like 12 drafts. So I think that the writing part is really fun. The development, like a makeover of how, if you look at something from a first-year graduate student, 6-year graduate student. I have 2 students in that going to their year, and their writing changed so much. It's really neat to see.
Yes.
But giving them the space to be themselves, and I think helps that process a lot better. And again, making kind of the last topic, making sure someone feels comfortable with themselves and to make mistakes, and it's okay, and create an environment as best as you can where everyone gets along. That's really where someone can do a really good job. PhD and move on.
Great. What do you have to say? Like, Sukhbir, what do you have to say about this?
So I've had like couple different experiences with her, right? So we had abstract writings, and like abstract writing is completely different than writing a paper where you have space to write about your ideas. So it's 2 different writing styles. And as our graduate program had this thing where you have to submit a first-year paper, a second-year paper, then a prospectus where it's kind of like 3 aims and what you're going to do. So like the big grand style paper that you write. So the first 2 papers, we had this rule that the mentor cannot help the student when they're writing.
Okay.
So they can just help you hash out the outline of the draft, but they cannot actually help or give feedback on the draft itself. So I know we sat down together, and we both are like visual people, so we have to write things down. She has a whiteboard right now in her office, and if you go, it's like different colors and everything on her whiteboard with like different projects where everything is at right now, and just like this is the paper. So we used to actually sit down and write the names of the paper, like let's say Kaur et al. 2018, or this is what the next paper is. What will go in this paper? What will go in this paper? So we had that hashed out, I think, in the 2nd year of my PhD. So it was never like, it was always like working towards that paper and the kind of the story that we were working on together. So I learned that from her very early on, just like hashing out things before you start writing. And that's what I've carried forward, right? I have to have an outline before I start filling in things. And so I think, as she said, like first we had this multiple drafts going back and forth, having so many versions, final, like till the time you cannot write any more finals on the draft. So we've had that initially, and I think because she doesn't give you feedback like change this sentence to this. No, her feedback is like this point doesn't come out clearly. So it gives you a chance to explain something better, like add more sentences, or she like add more about hormone, add more about inflammation. So she won't tell you right away that add this sentence. It's just like what to change in a story, how to make it a good story. So that's what I've learned from her, and which is a major learning, because someone can tell you sentences, but that would not help you grow independently as a person who is able to write better. And that's what I've seen, like my dissertation. And if I see my first year paper, it's like, how did we go through? Why did they put me through the second year? It was so bad. So it's a process. And just the part where she was saying we sit together and work out the final points in the draft when we have to submit something. You see how her thinking works and how to go through the whole draft and how to kind of make it more like just change the sentence to where it's shortened and more crisp. Just little things like that, I think were really helpful. At one point, when I was writing, I 110% knew that this is going to come back with these like I knew the issues, but at that point I was like 100% saturated with writing the abstract. I was like, I'm just going to send it to her. I know she's going to give me those feedbacks, but it's okay. And then we would work together from there. So we understood each other's writing styles over those 6 years. And at one point, I used to just send her things and she used to send it back. But it does get better.
Yeah. Also, you start matching each other's frequency, I guess. I think that is something which helps you like with time.
And I would like to add the biggest thing about writing that we were talking about. So Dr. Averitt, she believes that you have to publish as you go. And like when you begin off, it doesn't matter what impact factor you're publishing in, because I know a lot of mentors. I've worked with such a mentor as well who was like, we need Cell and Nature papers. I was like, okay, we'll get there. But she had this like, let's progress. Let's at least start publishing so you have something out there. And she was really passionate. She's really passionate about getting the work out there, which matters. So I'll tell you, writing my dissertation, I did not work on my chapters at all because everything was just papers. Yes. So I just added papers as chapters. And the only thing I really had to work on was the introduction part and the final discussion, which was so much easier than I cannot imagine if I had to do all of this at once and sit down and write a whole dissertation. So I think just having her push through the PhD and be like, no, let's write this paper. Let's at least draft it and say that we are going to submit it to a journal, right? So then even the committee doesn't have a lot of input because they know you're already ready to submit it to a peer-reviewed journal. They'll have little feedback here and there. So I didn't have to work on my chapters at all. I just worked on intro and discussion. That's it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Also, I think it keeps you motivated. I mean, regardless of what the impact factor of the journal is, if you're submitting a paper in second year and if you're getting one, right, like early on in your PhD, I think it motivates you a lot. Like, you feel like, okay, now I will work better and do better things and do nice experiments. I think that is something which is really nice. It adds to the positivity. That's really great. Professionally, every student does not really want to continue in academia. I'm sure Dr. Averitt has had these kind of, like, you have had different kind of students, and of course, people realize it later. Some people at the beginning think that they want to continue in academia. Some people already know right from the beginning. How do you work with your students from that perspective?
So every student have to take it individually. I've done government research and academia, so I have that perspective. But there's a lot of other types of jobs I don't have perspectives on. It's really trying to find people for your graduate students to talk to help them get toward their goal. If I don't have, I know how to make you a scientist, but in terms, if you want to be a science writer, then it's very important to write as you go, and maybe write some more news type articles, things like that. So it's good early on to communicate that. As you know, you don't always know what you want your first year, second year, but if you're thinking about it, be open about it and talk about it so that you have the time. A while, you need to build a resume or a vita that is representative of where you want to go. I'm a pretty strong supporter of doing a postdoctoral fellowship to get connections, but that doesn't always work out the how you want it to work out. So I've had learning experience on that front as well. So I think communication all along the way, not at the end, and really start thinking about that. 2 years out, that you can get the right connection and get the right, people on board and get the right stuff on your resume. I think they are a lot more open now than they used to be about it. So don't be shy about non-academic positions if that's what you're interested in.
Yes. No, also I think now the exposure is so much that you know that you have more options than just staying in academia. So I think that there are so many workshops which happen, and so many small short-term courses which happen, which you can add to your expertise and do something which is related to academia or connected to science, but not exactly run a lab. So I think that's, like you say, it's important to understand that and circle back at that thought again and again throughout your PhD, which will help you and put things in your resume and make connections also, of course. Work-life balance. I know, like, from what I hear, I think for both of you, the work-life balance has been really good. Like it has been balanced. What are your perspectives about it? As in, how have you ensured that you keep the work-life balance?
I think choosing a job where that's clearly an option for you. Some jobs don't give you as much flexibility to have a good work balance, and others do. And so I have 2 young girls, an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I'm a huge proponent of work-life balance. You can't be a good scientist if you're miserable. You're not getting out doing other stuff that makes you happy, because you can love doing science, but when it's negative result, mean reviewer number 2, it's going to get to you, no matter how much you love it. Get out of that, something else, be it children, or if you don't have kids, go hiking, go travel blog. One of my friends from my postdoc has a travel blog as an outlet. So it's so important to do that, because science can be so frustrating, and you need to make sure that that's a position that you take or a lab that you take. There has to be flexibility. Otherwise, you hear all these horrible stories of experience in science.
Right. What do you think about it, Sukhbir?
So I don't think I have to attest over here that PhD students do, like, I did not have a great work-life balance, and everyone out there doing PhD knows and understands this. But I think the biggest part that helped with it was that she just wanted us to move forward in our projects, right? So if you're going to meet every week as so what's the progress report like? Like what did you do over the week? What is your plan for the next week? But it was never like, oh, it's 9 a.m. sharp and I do not see you on your desk. Like, where are you? No, it was never like that because she knew that we worked late in the night most of the times. So we had that comfortable zone of being in the lab at whatever time point we had to, and just work late in the night because we stayed closer to campus. So it was easier to do that. So we kind of made like our own schedules and worked around it. But then whenever we meet, it just has to be a progress. So it was very flexible work environment. But I will say that I have felt that you need to have something else that you do apart from just being in the lab. So for me, that was every Sunday I used to go to Gurdwara, which is the Sikh place of worship, and I didn't care about like I used to be there for number of hours, and in my mind, like I know as an academic person, it was like, oh, I should be in the lab, I should be doing this, I have so much writing to do, I have so much experiments, like those thoughts. And I used to be like, take this time, relax, like be here, then you'll go back, and anyway you're going to work late in the night, so it's not like you're going to do anything substantial if you go right now. So for me it was just connecting with music. I play the harmonium, so that's my outlet. I have to, like, bad days, good days, I just sit with my harmonium and play something so to relax my mind if I'm overwhelmed with things. And as she said, it's difficult when you're getting one negative result over the other. And we had that experiment. We had that one experiment which would not work over 3 years that we have tried it. It just would not work. And every day when I started that experiment was like, oh, again. So I think that just having an outlet and just having like, because she was supportive, and I used to just text her in the middle of the experiment, like, hey, it's like not working. She's like, try this and this, and if it doesn't work, just leave it. And we just communicate over there. And then in terms of just segregation, we knew that she has values family time a lot, and that's what we learned from her, right? So during the weekends, we wouldn't like expect her to answer to something. We would send emails, like if you're working on a paper or something, it's a draft, I just send it and it's there in her inbox, but I didn't expect her to respond. And that was the similar kind of expectation. So weekends was, we knew that we are just going to do our own thing, work out according to our own speed. So we had that flexibility, and it worked really good for both of us.
That's nice. That's nice. Okay, before we conclude, any advice for our viewers about choosing labs, choosing mentors, choosing PhD projects? Anything you would like to say, Dayna?
I think it's important to build a relationship early on, so where you feel comfortable telling your faculty member about what you want to do, and when you make mistakes, and make sure you're in an environment where you have freedom to make those mistakes, and that you're being treated as a mentee and not as an employee. I think that's, you know, if you're recognizing one, then you might want to change. Like I said, the project doesn't necessarily matter. Reiterating what Sukhbir started this whole thing with, the project doesn't matter as much like it, but you have to be able to be in an environment where you can connect that project. So that relationship between mentor and mentee is really critical. So make a change. If it's not, make a change early, because it gets harder further to go.
Yeah. So I know you already said that like choosing a better mentor is more important than the kind of work or the project that you're doing. But do you have any advice over like how the choice should be made?
Definitely. I mean, every student has this meeting with the prospective mentor, right? You'd sit down, you discuss the project. I think just having two different experiences that I've had with two different mentors, I would say just gauge the conversation. Are they asking you what you like to do? What's like your thinking, or what's your expertise? Are they taking you in as a colleague, as a mentee, and just understanding what's your expertise like, or are just like, this is what the project is, this is what you'll be working on, and not even asking your opinion about if you really want to do this part of the project or not? So just gauging that conversation. And apart from having a conversation with the mentor, and if I don't know if like PhD students know this, but feel free to ask someone, what's your mentorship style like? I've learned this from her, and I've used this question, like, what's your mentorship style like? Because everyone needs different kind of mentors. You would need someone who needs to check in with you frequently, versus you would need someone who just lets you do what you want to do. And apart from that, talk to the students in the lab before saying yes. Like, talk to them, see how the atmosphere is. I know it was not the case for me. I was her first graduate student, but I just like, when we had the first conversation, it was very like clear about what kind of a mentor she is and what she expects from the students in the lab. So after that, I kind of took it as my responsibility to keep that same like healthy lab atmosphere. So I think you carry off from your mentor, like those vibes. So if you have a good mentor, you will be the same kind of the person in the lab. And that's what I would like to say. Talk to the students in the lab, talk to the mentor, have those conversations and gauge how they are responding and talking to you. So.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for all your inputs, your very, very interesting stories. And I had really great time. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. We had like, this is the first time I've done something like this with my mentor, and it's really cool. So thank you for having us.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll catch up with you later, and yeah. Have a great day. Have a great
And thank you
weekend.
everyone who joined us on this just conversation we are having.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
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 All right. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode and have a lot to take home from this. I'm sure that I do. And we'll see you later in the next episode with another interesting topic and another interesting theme. So stay tuned. Bye.